From the Steam Deck to Linus Tech Tips videos, it seems like Linux is gaining traction quickly. That's great. I run Fedora on my desktop, KDE Neon on my laptop, and Rocky Linux on my server, so I'm always happy to hear about the Linux community growing. But should you switch? Let's find out. Despite what some hardcore Linux fans may tell you, Linux is not for everyone. And despite what some other hardcore Linux fans may tell you, Linux is not just for hackers and programmers typing in the terminal all day. Like most things, choosing an operating system is all about trade-offs. Nothing is perfect. Both Linux and Windows have things they do well and things they don't do so well. To help us decide which operating system is the best choice, let's go over the pros and cons of each. If you disagree with anything I say, or just think I've missed anything, just let me know in the comments, because I'd love to talk about it. Let's start with the tried and true, Windows. Windows has a lot of things going for it. An easy one to start with is that, well, you already know how to use it. Like it or not, being familiar with an operating system is just as important as that operating system being easy to use. Even if Linux is really easy to use, you might still feel more comfortable in Windows anyway. Along with familiarity, there are so many resources available for support for Windows. If you have a problem, chances are you can Google it and find 10 different articles outlining possible solutions. Another good thing about Windows is gaming. Windows has always been the go-to place for playing PC games, and that probably won't change anytime soon. It even has some extra features for gaming, like auto HDR and direct storage. At least until Proton is completely fleshed out, Windows will continue to have the best library of compatible games. Of course, Windows doesn't just have games. Have you ever looked up an app and seen that it doesn't have a Windows version? Unless you're a Linux user, probably not. Windows has a huge library of amazing apps that can help you do anything you think of. It also has great support for legacy applications, like those that you might need for school or work. Well, Windows seems pretty great, doesn't it? Well, you can't have the good without the bad. For one, it's a bit of a CPU hog. Its many services might slow down some tasks or reduce your battery life. It's also not exactly privacy friendly, nor is it open source. You might not care, but I know a lot of people do, and it's something to keep in mind. Also, you don't get a lot of customizability options. You can't, easily at least, dramatically change the theme or the way the operating system works. And my personal favorite downside of Windows, and one that I think often doesn't get mentioned that much, is that it costs $100. I don't know about you, but I'd rather not spend $100 on an operating system, or anything. All around, Windows doesn't look so bad. It offers a good experience with only a few downsides, mainly having to do with its philosophy and its price. So is Linux any better? Unlike Windows, Linux is open source and respects your privacy. Again, a lot of people, including me, don't really care about that. But it does mean Linux is free. Along with being free, Linux is lightweight. It made my underpowered Dell XPS 13 go from a stuttery, slow experience to one that hardly ever gets in my way. You can also customize your Linux experience with different UIs and themes available to tailor to how you work. Another major benefit of Linux has to do with standardization, which is super cool. I think it could be Linux's hidden superpower. We're working on going in depth into it in a future video, so be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss it. Linux does struggle with app compatibility though. A lot of software and games just don't work on Linux. And admittedly, Linux will take some getting used to. Things on Linux aren't always exactly the same as they are on Windows, so your first month or two might come with some trouble, and certainly a lot of Googling. Both Windows and Linux have their pros and cons. So which should you actually use? Well, if you're a gamer or need to use a lot of specialty software, Windows is probably just still the way to go. However, I'll go out on a limb here and say that a lot of average computer users might want to use Linux. Yes, Linux does struggle with compatibility, but a lot of what people do these days is just through a browser. Linux has browsers pretty much solved at this point, and everything from Firefox to Chrome, or even Microsoft Edge works on Linux. There's really no reason not to try Linux. It's free, it won't break your computer, and you can even install it alongside Windows if you just want to try it and see if you like it. Linux may not be a perfect choice, but neither is Windows, and I think it's the right one for a lot of people. I strongly believe that while Windows may be a more fully featured operating system, it's not worth the cost, and Linux is more than enough for the majority of average computer users. Linux has a long way to go before it's the de facto choice, but it seems like we're getting closer and closer every day. So what are you waiting for? Go try Linux! I hope you enjoyed this video. If you disagree with anything I said in this video, I'd honestly love to hear what you have to say, so be sure to comment down below. Also, I do agree that there are some issues and difficulties with getting initially set up and comfortable on Linux that some people just might not understand. So if you'd like me to make a video about choosing a Linux distro and getting it installed and set up, just let me know. Oh, and you probably already noticed, but I have a green screen and a new mic now. I hope you all like the new equipment. Maybe this means I'll finally start uploading more again. I guess we'll see. And, well, maybe this might be the year of the Linux Dad.